Thank you for being a part and parcel of the live broadcast that I usually take every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Discussing several issues relating to leadership, and particularly with the idea of developing the leadership traits or the leadership potentials that are found in the inside of every one of us. Now, I've done this now for about 8 weeks. I've treated several topics, and they've been quite interesting. I've gotten interesting responses regarding the previous editions and contents that I have attempted to deliver. So today, I'm going to be talking about creating and maintaining healthy relationships. Creating and maintaining healthy relationships. Now, every one of us is involved in one form of relationship or the other. And every one of us has certain expectations as far as relationships are concerned. And we get disappointed when relationships do not go our way or the way that we expect that the relationship should go. So we get heartbroken, we get troubled, we get disturbed when any relationship is broken. Okay? Now, and again, you and I know and understand that relationships can come in various forms. But today, I'd like to discuss them in the form of leaders that we are, men and women, empowered to relate with one another, empowered to lead each other. Okay? And I'm going to be drawing a lot of lessons from my experiences and some from some other relationships or some other person's examples that I've had over the years. And I'm hoping that we would all draw from this. Now, on the 25th of May, 2020, it turned 21 years since my mother was called to glory. Now, 21 years thereafter, I miss our friendship. I constantly, well, not on a very regular basis, but on some length of time, spend some time to think of the kind of relationship that we had with her. Okay? The kind of relationship that we had with her. My mother was my friend, and she was also my mother. By that, I mean, she drew me close to her. She related with me more or less on my own terms. But again, she tried to develop my mindset in the direction that she wanted me to go. So 21 years after, I still constantly remember that relationship. I still get lessons from that relationship. I more or less still hear her voice when she speaks to me, or voice when she had intended to advise me on certain things. Okay, so that's the kind of relationship that I had with my mother. Now, 21 years ago, she was called home to rest. And years have passed, and I haven't stopped thinking about her. I haven't stopped reminiscing over the kind of relationship that we had with her. Obviously, something must have been special, something must have been spectacular about the kind of relationship that we had with her. Now, if you are in my shoes, If you are in my shoes, you've lost a loved one, you loved someone, or you've lost someone whom you are very well related with, someone you had had some level of intimacy with that has gone by way of death to rest, I would suppose that you constantly think and constantly reminisce over the kind of relationship that you had with the persons that had been called home to rest. So for me, it's with my mother, and we had a very friendly relationship. Well, she was first and foremost my mother, but above that, she turned out to be a friend. And so, what were the things that made that relationship tick? What were the things that um, made that relationship important? Okay, we've got to think about those things. And as we think about those things, I would be speaking concerning some of those things that made that relationship with my mother very thick, that made that relationship to hold me spellbound many years after she's left the earth. Okay? Um, Now, I also reckon that not many of us know the value of relationships. Okay? We've got friends, we've got family members, and many of them are not treated the way that they ought to be treated. Many of us take our relationships for granted. We do not give the value or place the value that is expected that we should place in those relationships. And many a times these things happen in families, relationship between a husband and a wife. Okay? Many a times, a lot of us take for granted the kind of wives that we have or the kind of husbands that we have. We take them for granted and we do not hold them in high esteem. We do not give them value the way that we ought to give them value. And in many instances, we begin to show value or respect after that friend has passed away, or that marriage relationship is broken, or a child has been buried thereabout. That's when we begin to place value over that person and over that child that or over that loved one that has been called home to rest. So I know that many of us take relationships for granted. My aim today is to attempt to help us see every relationship for the value that those relationships have. To look at those relationships in the eyes of new lovers, in the eyes of trusted personalities, okay? To look at those relationships the way that we ought to look at those relationships so that in the nearest future, if by death or by some transfer or by some movement we're separated from those friends or from those partners, we will, every time we remember, reminisce and rejoice and enjoy over the kind of relationship that we had with that person. Okay? The rate of divorces are very high in recent times. Why? I tell you, it is because we take relationships for granted. So a young man takes his time, spends hours making effort to endear a young woman unto himself. The young woman takes time to like that young man, to enjoy his company, to like his presence, to like everything about him. And at some point, they agree to get married. except that when they get married, they begin to see other things that they never knew about the other person, and almost immediately they begin to take for granted or begin to look down on the marriage partners that they have. These are the core reasons for divorces. This is at the heart of divorce, when partners take each other for granted. Okay? And taking each other for granted does not necessarily come about by speaking the words. Okay? But the way that we treat the other person, the way that we relate with the other person, will tell us immediately whether we take the person for granted or not. Okay? Where a man who is married spends more time with people outside of his home, or laughs more with women outside of his home, and when he comes back home, he frowns. When he comes back home, he changes his demeanor. That tells you that he takes that married partner, his wife, for granted. He takes his wife for granted. A wife who relates with other men outside freely, okay, who at the slightest request yields to other men's desires, or another man's thoughts. Okay, the person who at the slightest um, instant, okay, is willing to yield to people outside of his home or her home as against the people within the house, you know that that person takes his family for granted. Okay? Now, so the idea is to teach us not to take each other for granted. Okay? So this is what I want us to do today. And we will stretch from the family to our colleagues at workplaces, to our partners in business, to our mentees, our mentors, and other persons that we relate with. Okay? So this is the idea of attempting to teach us how to create and to maintain healthy relationships. Welcome to everyone who is online with me at the moment. I see about 5 persons online. My encouragement is for you to share this with friends, to host watch parties with friends, to also relate with me on this. Like I have seen my friend and my sister Owole Comfort Ejila, who is already posting in, sending in comments. I would expect that if you are enjoying this, you write in your comments. If you have questions relating to today's topic, just send in your comments. Again, if there is a topic that you want us to look at, an issue you want us to address in subsequent broadcasts, please feel free to write it on the comment section. You'll see a scroll bar going through. That's the email for the organization that some friends and I have set up, Born to Live. You'll see our Facebook page, you'll see our WhatsApp numbers, and so on. So you could send WhatsApp messages through those numbers. You could also make comments as this discussion goes on. Now, so this I would like us to understand. Now, for you to maintain, or for you to create and maintain a healthy relationship, you must daily make a conscious effort, okay? Conscious effort to start a relationship or to maintain the relationship that you already have. Most of the persons that I call friends at the moment the friendship started when I greeted the person first. I've made it as a point of duty to greet people wherever I meet them, whenever I meet them. Regardless of your disposition, regardless of your demeanor, regardless of your outfit, regardless of your religious background, of your faith background, regardless of your educational status, regardless of your sexual status, I greet you first. That's a deliberate and conscious effort on my own side to start a relationship. For you to create a relationship, you've got to make conscious effort to come close to people. Okay? You have got to make, or you've got to give more to people than you receive from them. Every human being needs a relationship. Every human being. Every human being loves to have people listening to their story, and they love to listen to other people's stories. That's true. That's the fact of life. And so, for you to create a relationship, you must give a listening ear to other people's stories. Okay? You must give a listening ear to other people's stories. And of course, you know that if you do that, the more you listen to people, a Bible verse that I love, which says that if you call yourself a friend, you must show yourself to be friendly. Okay? If you call yourself a friend, you must show yourself to be friendly. That's quite important. It's very important that for you to become a friend to someone, you must be friendly with the person. You must be open to the person. You must be willing to accommodate people's viewpoints or relate with them on the basis of friendship. You cannot frown your face, and expect people to relate with you, to become friends with you. I used to work in, I used to lead a group, and I had members on the team working with me. I had a very good friend in the team, very good relational friend. Okay, so because I was close to him, we could relate, we could talk, we could smile. I knew his house, he knew my house. I related with his wife as much as he also related with my own wife. Okay? Now, he had one issue, he had one problem, which was that he was not the smiling type. Okay? Constantly, he looked as if he was frowning about things that people didn't know about. And for that reason, other members of the organization found it difficult to relate with him. And because I related with a number of them, I constantly heard complaints about him. So they came to me to say, why does this man not smile? Why is he constantly frowning? Why is he not friendly? That's what they said to me. And I said, no, he is quite friendly, except that, except you come close to him. I do not know why he doesn't seem friendly. And every time I let him know, because that's what friends do. Okay? Let people know about their areas of shortcoming. So every time I talked to him about his area of want, his area of shortcoming, he constantly told me he would improve on it. And of course, he made efforts to improve of on his the countenance on his face. Okay, so for you to be a friend, you must present yourself as being friendly. Let me quote Solomon David again. One of the, well, not one of, I know the wisest man to have ever lived on earth after Jesus Christ. He says that two are better than one. Two are better than one. Because if one falls, the other will be standing to help him or her to stand. Two are better than one. In other words, what he's saying is that if every relationship, okay, is better than having individuals stand on their own. It's better to be friendly to have a relationship than have individuals stand on their own. Okay? So two are better than one. And you've heard that two heads are better than one head. Now people try to modulate that and regulate that statement to say two good heads are better than one. But I tell you, two heads are usually better than one. Why? Because they rub minds together. They rub minds together. There is no fine idea. There's no fine idea that reigns on earth at the moment that was birthed by and thought through by a single individual. No, no. Every individual that came up with an idea had other people to help him or her think, help him or her think through the idea. Okay? So two heads are better than one. Now, for you to enjoy a relationship, you must be willing to create one. And for you to create a relationship, you must, first of all, present yourself as being friendly. You must present yourself as being relational. You must learn to smile at people. You must learn to greet people whenever you come across them. Okay? You must learn to greet people whenever you come across them. So these are some of the things that you must understand. Now, if you have a good relationship, you will know, with me, this is a matter of fact. It's been researched, and if you do not even know this, if you do not know of any research, just do a check on yourself. If you have a good relationship, you are constantly smiling, you are constantly at peace in your heart and your mind. You know that you've got your back covered. Okay? People who are in good relationships always have good opportunities come to them because people look out for their friends. People watch out for their friends. People encourage their friends. People seek opportunities to grow their friends because the growth of one is the growth of others. The growth of one is the growth of others. So that's what it takes to be able to start up a relationship. Now, what do you do if you are in a relationship and you want that relationship to grow healthily? What do you do? The first thing I think you should do is that you must put others first. You must put others first. The golden rule says, do unto others as you want them to do unto you. Do unto others as you want them to do unto you. In other words, you must learn to esteem the views, the perspective, the feelings, and the emotions of other people around you. You must know this for certain. As humans, we cannot all be perfect. In fact, there's no perfect human. We all have one flaw or the other. Now, because of that, we must create room for the flaws of others. And to do that, we must put others first, above of ourselves. Above ourselves. We must consider others as being as important as ourselves, or even probably more important than ourselves. So put others first. In this age and time, you hear all sorts of arguments who hold on to their positions and are never willing to let go of their position. They do not put themselves into other person's perspective. If you are a husband living a home, for you to enjoy the relationship in your home, okay, you must learn to put others first. This is the way I relate with my children. Growing up as children, I know the mischiefs that I did. I know how I played so well in the classroom And I'm using this example right now because some of my classmates are joining me online, live, like Owole, Ejila, and KG Code, who are joining me. Now, you would recall that I was very playful in the class, a noise-making chap. Okay? When I went back home, I found time to read. So, there were other mischiefs that I did when I was a young chap, a much younger chap. Okay? Now, when I see my children doing some of these things, I take myself out of my adulthood and put myself in their childhood position to understand that some of these mischiefs are part of growing up. Okay? That some of these mischiefs are part of growing up. Therefore, they should be permitted or room should be created for them to do some of these mischiefs. Of course, I attempt to guide them and guide them properly. But when parents behave like they never made a mistake when they were children, when parents want adults or children rather to behave like adults because they have grown up and are now behaving like adults, what you find out is you constantly have friction with your children at home. And it is the same thing in our workplaces. If we do not put others first, if we do not put other person's perspective and views first and place them most likely above ours, what we'll constantly have is friction. And where there is friction, relationship does not grow healthy. Okay? So that's the first step that we must note. As a leader in the office, you must remove yourself from your exalted office and put yourself in the perspective of the junior staff, junior workers. Okay? As someone who puts people first, you must also learn to relate with people on a name basis. Okay? First name basis if possible. One of the things I admire about the American presidents is that by tradition and culture, they are trained to know the names of workers in the White House. They are trained to know the names of workers in the White House, so that as they walk past workers in the White House, they don't just greet them on general terms, they greet them by their first name. They greet them by their first name. And by so doing, those persons relate with them and relate with them very well. Okay? So, that's the first thing to do if you must maintain a healthy relationship. The second is that hurting people hurt people. Okay? Now, if you want to enjoy relationship with people, you must learn to forgive and to forget people's wrongs. Husbands and wives know this very well. Almost on a daily basis, husbands and wives brush each other. Okay? But almost immediately, they forgive and forget the wrongs that their partners have done to them. Now, the people who end up divorcing are people who recount consistently the faults and errors of each other. Where you find staff fighting in an organization, it's because they constantly remind each other of their wrongs. Okay? You've got to be kind. You've got to be able to let go. When people hurt you, when people offend you, you've got to be able to forgive and to let go. As many times as you can forgive, you must learn to forgive. Okay? If someone hurts you, you do not need to remind the person at the next time the person offends you. Treat every hurt, treat every offense as an individual offense of its own. Something that I constantly tell my wife is that when I hurt you, it's not because I deliberately and intentionally intended to hurt you. I was just doing my own thing. And it's that basis upon which I relate with my wife. I cannot recollect ever reminding my wife of a wrong that I have forgiven or have let go of. And the same thing with my children. I never, at least I make an effort intentionally, never to remind them of the wrongs that they've done yesterday. Once I've corrected the wrongs, we move on to the next chapter. And if you want to enjoy a healthy working relationship with people in your workplace, please forget about their wrongs of yesterday and learn to forgive their wrongs of today. To enjoy a healthy relationship, you must learn to let go of hurts. When people offend you, you must learn to forgive. So that's the second step. Okay? The first step, I said, is to put others first. That is to say, to consider others as valuable as yourself, or sometimes as more important than yourself. Number two, to never hold on to hurts and offenses. To never constantly remind people of their wrongs. Once you've forgiven, you must let go. And you must learn to constantly forgive. Number three is that for you to maintain a healthy relationship, you must spend more time with the person that you want to maintain a healthy relationship with. Time helps you understand the other person. In fact, I read a book many years ago, The Purpose-Driven Life, and I guess that a number of people must have read that book before. He says that the spelling of love is T-I-M-E, time. You spend time over the things that you love. I love watching football. And so I'm able to give 1 hour, 30 minutes, or 2 hours of my time just watching football. In fact, as a routine, I've ruled out Saturdays for so many events because I just want to sit down, glued to my TV screen, watching TV, watching football. The only things that move me out of the house on Saturdays, for example, are things that have to do with my family or things that have to do with social events that I necessarily have to be there. And when I am there, my mind is constantly on the football match that is being played. So you can imagine what this lockdown has done to my life. Okay? So you can imagine that. But on a serious note, okay, if you want to build and develop a healthy relationship with any human, one of the best ways to do it is to spend time with the person. To spend time with the person. I've just mentioned that my classmates are watching me live at the moment. Okay? Now, this is past 30 years after we left secondary school. Imagine this. We spent 5 years in school, and those 5 years have cemented friendship and relationship so much that 30 years after, we're still relating one with another. So when you spend time with people, it helps you get to know the people well. It helps the people get to know you even better. Time is the currency of friendship. Time. You spend your time over the things that you love the most. So if you claim to be married, for example, and yet you spend more time with your childhood friends outside of the home, it spells doom. It tells me that you're not building, or at least hoping to maintain a healthy relationship with your spouse. I grew up on the military base, the Air Force Base precisely. And we had the officers and sergeant mess, okay, where the military men went to unwind, usually after the close of work. There were men who hardly ever spent time at home. They were constantly at the mess, okay, with male friends, people that were not paying their bills, okay? Now, the wives of these men constantly complained. The children, most at times, went wayward because they didn't have a father figure spending time with them. If you want to maintain a healthy relationship with anybody, the secret is to spend more time with the person. Spend more time with the person. The reason why you are constantly looking at your phone is because you love your phone. There are things of interest within your phone. You can hardly take your eyes off the phone and you spend time, hours on the phone. Now, if you transfer that or if you relate that with other humans, you will discover that what it helps you do is to build and maintain a healthy relationship. So again, let me go back a bit. The first step towards maintaining a healthy relationship is to consider others above yourself. Consider others above yourself. The second step is to learn to forgive and never store up hurts in your heart. Learn to forgive and to also forget. And the third is to do what? Is to spend more time with the people and the things that you want to spend or enjoy a healthy relationship with. And like I've said earlier on, priority must go to your family. Priority must go to your family. Therefore, my encouragement to you is that you should spend more time with your family than you spend with any other person. If you are a husband, more time with your wife and children. If you are a wife, more time with your husband than your phone. More time with your children than the television. If you are a child, more time with your parents, with your mother in the kitchen, with your daddy on the table when he's reading or attempting to write or do some other thing. Or when he's taking care of the car. More time with your family than anyone else. Okay? The fourth step towards maintaining a healthy relationship is to serve others. To serve others. That Jewish teacher called Jesus Christ taught a fundamental lesson when he says, the Son of Man has come to serve, not to be served. As a master of 12 men, he rather served them than have them serve him. No wonder, over 2,000 years since his left, that friendship has grown and has encompassed billions of persons into that group, into that friendship. Why? Because one man served 12 people. These 12 people, or 11 eventually, found it more important to serve others rather than serve themselves. Okay? I once read an article by John C. Maxwell, and there he quoted Helen Keller, who said this: life is an exciting business, and most exciting when lived for others. I repeat, life is an exciting business and most exciting when lived for others. And I agree with that. Whenever you serve people, one of the things you find out in your heart is that it gladdens you, it pleases you, it gives you great joy when you serve others. When you serve others, they usually find it also as a responsibility to in turn serve you. That's what happens. When you serve others, they almost obligatorily take it as a point of responsibility to serve others too, or to serve you and to serve others too. This is how friendship grows. This is how relationship grows. So, if you want to enjoy and maintain healthy relationships, you have got to learn to serve others. And while you serve others, please serve them joyfully and happily. Do not serve them from a perspective of duty and responsibility. Serve them because willingly, happily, cheerfully, you're willing to serve. You're willing to serve. One of the things that you find with political leaders is that rather than serve other people, they usually tend to serve themselves first. They usually tend to serve themselves first. No wonder a lot of people do not trust political leaders. But true leaders are people who consider service at the core, at the heart of every relationship. One more way to build relationship is to appreciate people. Express your love and appreciate people. Now, I have this fault, okay? I'm not one who is readily willing to say, I love you. It's maybe because of how I was raised, okay? My background, okay? So rarely do I say this. My wife frowns at it. And I constantly appeal to her to try to understand with me as to why I usually forget. I try to do it. So I've improved a bit, okay? But I haven't gotten to the point of perfection. But one thing that I do is that I try at all costs to serve her, to serve my wife, nearly at all costs. When she pleads that I do something, my instant response, honestly, is to say, no, I won't do it. But almost in seconds, I change my mind and I am finding myself immediately doing it. Okay? So, for you to maintain a healthy relationship, you must learn to express love. You must learn to appreciate people. When people do good, please clap for them, even if they are your children. One of the things that I try to also do is to count the pluses for my family members as against their minuses. Again, like I said, we all have minuses. We do. We all have faults. We all have areas of shortcomings. So rather than look at the areas of shortcomings, I concentrate on their areas of strength. I concentrate on the areas that they are doing well. I appreciate them for doing well. When I eat any delicious meal, I appreciate them for the delicious meal. Again, I'm not consistent at doing that, but I constantly try to do it. Constantly. By God's grace, I make provision for the home. But when the girls cook and serve me, I thank them for doing that for me. I thank them for the food as if they were the ones who provided the food. We must learn to express love and to appreciate people. regardless of who you are. Okay? Now, again, for you to develop a healthy relationship or to maintain a healthy relationship, you must learn to believe people. When people show themselves to be trustworthy, you must learn to trust them. You must learn to agree with people when there is a need to be agreeable. And when you want to disagree, please feel free to disagree, but in the most friendly manner. In the most friendly manner. Please learn to express love, learn to appreciate, learn to trust them. Learn to trust them for who they are, for what they say they are, for what they say they are doing. Except, of course, if the breach or if the trust is breached. If the trust is broken, I know how difficult it is to re-establish trust. It's exceptionally difficult. Several times, my trust has been breached by people around. It becomes exceptionally difficult to re-establish the trust, but learn to trust people. If you want to develop a healthy relationship, you must understand, all right, that at the heart of whatever you do, people are more important. Whatever service you render, whatever activity you do, learn to realize and to recognize that at the heart and the center of that thing that you do, people will be affected, they will be influenced, they will be impacted. And as a leader, you must learn to understand that without people, you cannot lead. You cannot. Okay? Our leadership is not over people necessarily. It is over our skills, it is over our purposes. It is as we develop our purposes, it is as we develop our skills that we influence people, we impact the life of people, that we draw attention to people, and people begin to follow us. Okay? True leaders never seek followers. Never. It's followers who are attracted to the leader. At the heart of whatever we do, we must learn to respect and to uphold people. And for that reason, okay, we must learn to maintain these truths that I've just mentioned that we need to maintain as it relates to people. Okay? So learn to do that, and your life will, of course, grow. So let me also point out a few more characteristics of a good well, let me, like I was trying to say, let me make an effort to also build up to show how to maintain good relationships. I've mentioned about 6 factors now, and if I may just recap before I move on. One is the fact that for you to maintain a healthy relationship, you must be deliberate, you must be conscious. Deliberate in seeking people, conscious and intentional in drawing close to people. Because if you must prove yourself to be a friend, then you must be friendly. Okay? That's how to create relationships. And I mentioned earlier on that there's hardly anyone now that I relate with that I didn't begin by first greeting the person. And in many cases, I introduced myself to the person. That's how to be friendly. Then, for you to maintain that relationship, you've got to put others first, consider others above you. You've got to learn to forgive. and to forget hurts against you. Okay? You've got to also learn to appreciate love, to express love, to appreciate people. You've got to learn to spend time with people, quality time with people. Those are ways to maintain healthy relationships. There are other ways that I would want to express for us to maintain healthy relationships. And quickly, I need to spell out a few of them so we can see. Again, like I said, you must learn to put yourself in the shoes of others. First, you must learn to put yourself in the shoes of others. Okay? Now, besides that, like John Maxwell would say, people don't care how much you know till they know how much you care. So, you must learn to care for people. You must learn to care for people. People ignore people who ignore them. That's the common logic of life. People avoid people who do not have care for them. The reason why you see so many people at your doorstep seeking your attention is because they know that you care for them. And the reason why, in spite of all your wealth, you do not have people making requests of you is because they know that you do not care for them. So John Maxwell says people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So you must learn to care for people. You must learn to be a good listener. Okay? You must learn to be a good listener. Every one of us has a story to speak, to say, or to tell. Every one of us. We're all brought up separately. We're all brought up in different ways. Therefore, all these have influenced us, have impacted upon us, and we all have stories to tell. Before you tell your own story, learn to listen to other people's stories. Learn to listen to other people's stories. I've said that you must learn to forgive other people their wrongs. You must not store hurt in your heart. The flip side of this is that you must also quickly learn to acknowledge your wrong. Excuse me. Learn to acknowledge your wrongs. No human is perfect. No human is 100% complete. We all have errors. We all have shortcomings. People who maintain healthy relationships learn to acknowledge their wrongs. They learn to accept when they are wrong. In fact, there are times that you've got to learn to say sorry even when you are not wrong. It's happened several times between my wife and I that every time I want to reconcile when there's a hurt, I apologize first, whether I'm wrong or not. Learn to do that, and you will maintain a healthy relationship. Every relationship is a give and take situation. Every relationship is a give and take situation. However, there are people who tend to take more from others than they give. That's a wrong way to relate with people. It's an unhealthy way to relate with people. If you must maintain a healthy relationship, then you must learn to give more than you take. You must learn to avail yourself and give more of your resources and more of your time to others than you expect them to give to you. Every good relationship is maintained and sustained and grown by persons who give more than they receive. Now, this is the challenge. If I attempt to give more than I receive, and the other person attempts to give more than he or she receives, what happens is that both of us try to outdo each other in being good, in being nice, in being friendly to one another. And by so doing, what happens is that we're maintaining our relationship. We're maintaining a healthy relationship. I read this somewhere, in addition to all that I've said, that one way to also improve and maintain a healthy relationship is that you must learn to encourage one another. You and I know that you cannot encourage anyone too much. There is nothing like over-encouragement. Really, when workers do good, you must learn to encourage them. Give them a pat on the shoulder, a pat on the back. Tell them, well done. Give them a thumbs up for doing good. When members of your family do good, give them a thumbs up. Do not take them for granted. Do not say that after all, they should have done this and it is their duty to do it. Even when people do their duty, okay? When people do their duty, you must learn to appreciate them for doing their duty well. You must learn to appreciate them for doing their duty well. These are ways to improve or to start or to maintain a healthy relationship. I'm going to round up in a short time, in a short while from now. But the final point that I want to emphasize is this. For you to develop and maintain a healthy relationship, you must love yourself. You cannot love people much more than you love yourself. There is a famous saying of that great Jewish teacher called Jesus Christ. In fact, he says this is a law, that you must love your neighbors as you love yourself. In other words, love yourselves first and translate that law to people around you. People who hate themselves, people who count and consider themselves as disadvantaged, translate and transfer that onto others. And that is quite unhealthy. Quite unhealthy. For you to develop and maintain a healthy relationship, you've got to begin a relationship with yourself. You've got to love yourself first. And as you love yourself and love yourself pretty well, you've got to translate that to others. And of course, I understand that there will be so many reasons why you will not like yourself. Your background can be one. Your failures in life can be another. Your disadvantage, wherever you find yourself, can be another. But excuse me, look around you. You would see people with similar situations who have arisen beyond their circumstances and situations. My encouragement to you today is that you must create and maintain healthy relationships. And to do that, you must first relate with yourself. I'm going to draw the curtain here and appreciate everyone who has joined me online and my two friends who made comments, Owole Comfort and KG Cole, for your comments and your statements. And I thank you so much. Again, I'm going to encourage you. If you heard something that has triggered something in your heart, please write it down by way of comment and I will read through. If you want us to discuss another topic, related topic, or some other topic of interest as it concerns the leader within you, please write it down on the comment section. I'll go through and I'll make preparations. This week, beginning this week, I'm going to have double broadcast within the week. So I've done this today. The next broadcast will be on Saturday at 12 noon, hopefully. Saturday at 12 noon. If the time changes, it's likely to change because I just remembered I have an engagement. It's likely to change. If it changes, I will also find a way to pass across the message. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your time. See you next time on Saturday, and God bless you. Cheers.